Hopefully, well, I know we brought in a few more seats, but I just appreciate the candidates being here as well as all of you taking time out of your day. And that shows just how much the community is involved and interested in what's happening. So good morning. My name's Connie Romanis. I'm a member of the League of Women Voters of Greater Peoria. On behalf of the League and the Washington Public Library, we would like to again welcome you. The candidates today for mayor are Mike Brownfield and Lilija Stevens. We are live streaming this event, so it will be on our YouTube channel, LWVGP for League of Women Voters of Greater Peoria. For those who are here in person, we think you'll submit a candidate in writing, a question for the candidates in writing. There are cards at the greeters table, and we have several people who are taking cards. So if you have one and you filled it out, wave it, and one of our collectors will pick it up. We have just a couple questions that we came prepared with, because we don't always get those questions right off the bat, and we want to keep things moving. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization. We do not endorse candidates or political parties. We do take positions on issues after a lengthy study process. One of the missions of the League is voter education, and we do that through candidate forums like this. We've been doing forums for many years throughout the country. It's our way for you to hear directly from the candidates. So we hope that you'll walk away here today with a little more information about the issues in the community and about the candidates themselves to help you make a decision when you vote, either through early voting, voting by mail, or on Election Day, April 1st. Just a few housekeeping tasks. Be sure that cell phones are muted. Please hold your applause for the candidates until after they give their closing statements. There are no recordings other than the recording we are doing during this event. Our moderator today is Roberta Parks. She will run through the rules and get us started. We'll probably close this session right around 11 o'clock and then get set up for the next forum, which will be the council candidates. Rob?
Don't take my paper. Okay, again, I'm Rob Parks, and I've been a member of the League for quite some time, and this is not my first rodeo moderating a candidate forum. Although I will guarantee, and I told the candidates this, I will screw this up somewhere along the way. And if you notice that I've screwed it up, the order of the candidates, just holler out, they'll holler out, and I'll back up and do it correctly. So the candidates have had a chance to review and sign all the rules. The important part is that they have 2 minutes to make opening and closing statements, and they will each have a minute and a half to respond to questions. All questions go to both candidates. So when you're writing questions, think about that. Don't write a question that's only geared to one candidate. We have moles in the room who will scream those out. Because it's not appropriate, obviously. So we drew cards earlier, and Ms. Stevens will have the opportunity to make her opening statement first, and then followed immediately by Mr. Brownfield. And then Mr. Brownfield will answer the first question first, and then we'll continue to rotate. So a different person is always answering first. And then when we get to closing statements at around a little bit before 11, then we'll go to whoever is next in line. As Connie said, please submit your questions. I have a reasonable ability to combine questions into a single question. We won't, if the question you have written has already been asked, we won't ask it again just because you wrote it. But I will sometimes combine a couple of questions that, to me, and I'm not a resident of Washington, and I live on the other side of the river, so I pay far more attention to politics on the other side of the river. That's why I was chosen as the moderator, so I don't have a dog in this hunt. So we're going to start with, I'm sorry, we have timers who will flash at in the front row here. they'll show 1 minute remaining, 30 seconds remaining, 15 seconds remaining, and then the ever popular stop sign. And I will stop the candidates if they are run over. I've told them if they've got 4 or 5 words to finish the sentence, I'll probably let them finish that. If it's a run-on sentence, they don't get to finish it. I'll just say, thank you very much, and they'll stop. Or I'll have to physically cost them. So something like that. So anyway, so we will start with our opening statements. And Ms. Stevens, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this, and all of you for being here, and those who are watching on live stream. You're here because you want to know how to pronounce my name, right? I am Lilija Stevens. The J is pronounced like a Y. Yeah, Lilija is a Latvian name. Both of my parents were born in Latvia. They were refugees due to the Soviet occupation of Latvia during World War II, emigrating to Australia, where I was born. My uncle sponsored my parents, and we moved to Chicago. We arrived in the United States legally the summer I turned 9 years old. Since I wasn't born in the United States, I cannot be president of the United States, but I am qualified to be your mayor. One word that describes me is determined. Another word that describes me is consistent, and I am resilient. I have been determined and consistent since I was first selected to the council in 2019. My goals were and are to be responsive to constituents, to increase discussion during council meetings, to be fiscally responsible with your tax dollars, our tax dollars, and to keep you informed. Words are meaningless if they aren't followed up by actions. My actions have demonstrated community-focused leadership, a leadership change that includes and prioritizes the needs of our residents. Let's begin our city's next 200 years, our next chapter together. Thank you.
Mr. Brownfield, you have 2 minutes.
First, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for sponsoring this event today. And thank you all for coming in today. The first thing I said when I walked in is this room is not big enough. So it's a wonderful thing to see you all here. And thanks for the folks that are online today. Since announcing my candidacy in May, it's funny because I'll go around town and somebody will say, the big thing is, why do you want to be mayor of Washington? What would make you want to do something like this? I can tell you, I'm not doing this for Mike Brownfield. Mike Brownfield has had a great life. I'm doing this for the town that has given me so much, that has helped me thrive to become the person I am today. My folks moved here when I was 4 years old to Sunnyland. So I went to District 50 schools. I went to Washington Community High School and attended Illinois Central College. I met my wife in this town. We were fortunate enough and blessed to have 2 children, Brogan and Hannah, in this town. I was able to walk my daughter down the aisle in this town. I hope to watch my grandson Reed grow up in this town. So, why do I want to be? Look at the things Washington has. Washington has fantastic schools. We've got great churches. We have a tremendous park district. We have all these wonderful things, the downtown historic district with the square. It's exciting to me to want to move us in the next chapter. My goals as mayor are quite simple. Community engagement. We need to make sure that we're getting your voice heard. We'll do that by having different meetings with other elected officials, with some of our staff, just to make sure that we can move forward and listen to what you have to say. Better communication. We need to have our own social media to make sure we take care of things. And third, just promote economic development using city staff and other organizations. So I'm excited for your questions. I look forward to earning your vote today. Thank you.
Okay, for the first question, Mr. Brownfield. Jim Snyder resigned as city administrator in August, and no one is currently in that position. There has been significant turnover among city administrators in Washington over the last decade. What skills do you have to work with effectively? What skills will you be looking for to effectively fill the city administrator's position? You have a minute and a half.
Thank you. We have had a lot of city administrators since I've been on council since 2013. We lost an all-star in Tim Gleason, who helped bring this community back together. Started kicking that off. We've had some other ones, Jim Collada, Ray Forsyth, and now Jim Snyder. So I've been part of all these interviews, what we're looking for is someone who will hopefully be here for a few years. It's a good stepping stone. Washington's a great place, but some folks will be here and know they'll be here for 2, 4, 5 years and then move on. Tim Gleason's a prime example. Yeah, he has done such a wonderful job in other cities that he's just high in demand. The unfortunate thing is a lot of people don't want to do this job. So we have to find somebody that has the skill set that can lead our great staff at City Hall, who will be able to listen to elected, listen to the mayor, and take our ideas and have them run with them. That's their responsibility. It's not the mayor's responsibility to run the city staff. We need to make sure that we are fully engaged with this person, find the right person for the job. It's going to take some time. I mean, I recommended at one of the last meetings that we need to have an interim city administrator just to help have that person to help things move forward. So we have to find the right person, and when we do, I think it's just going to be better for all of Washington.
Ms. Stevens, minute and a half.
I turned that off. I'm sorry. Have it.
Could you repeat the question?
Yes, Jim Snyder resigned as city administrator in August, and no one is currently in that position. There has been significant turnover in city administrators over the last decade. What skills will you be looking for in the new city administrator?
That's a very important question. What I would be looking for in a city administrator is a person who gives the council members all the information, both sides of the information, so they can make informed decisions. The city administrator should be impartial to what anybody prefers as far as their stance on a topic. It's difficult for a city administrator to do that if they feel like the mayor perhaps doesn't agree with their stance. But I think we need to hire a strong person who understands the fact that they need to give both sides of the issue to the council.
Thank you. Ms. Stevens, you'll answer the next question. And this is a question that several people have submitted, so I'm making up the language as I go. If elected, you would be the first new mayor for the city of Washington in nearly a quarter century. Can you explain how you would be similar or different from the current mayor?
Well, for one, I won't be in this office for 24 years. Another difference is, well, if you've been following city meetings, you will see that my philosophy is not like the current mayor. My philosophy is to discuss during public meetings whatever the issues are. When I first started going to city meetings, which was January 2017, just sitting in the audience like all of you were sitting there, I just heard like what was being voted on and yes, 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 yes. And I was thinking, well, wait a minute, when are all these topics discussed? So that's one main difference. And also we will include the community in decision-making.
Mr. Brownfield, a minute and a half.
So the question was also, how are the current mayor and myself alike? I can tell you there's two things we're alike. We both grew up in Sunnyland and we both love Washington, Illinois. As far as what I plan on doing to move things forward, we've lost a few things the last couple of years on trying to restructure, trying to get information out. We don't do committee meetings anymore, so we have to do a better way of getting information out so everyone hears it at the same time, all the council folks. I don't know if that's going back to the committee system we had before or just as committee of the whole meeting we have, which is the second meeting every month, discussing everything there, what's coming up and what's going to happen. So we need to find a way where everybody feels like they're getting the information at the same time. We continue to have our discussions. We're elected to make sure we look at all avenues. If someone comes up to something and offers us some ideas, we need to make sure we're discussing these. It can't be a simple yes and no. We know right now there's a very emotional thing going on through the city, and I think we did an okay job at first, but having the town hall meetings that are coming up, that's going to help alleviate some of those concerns one way or another. So thank you.
again, this is a combination of a couple of questions that have been submitted and one that we had already had. The past 4 years have seen more of a split city council than at any time in recent memory. Additionally, you've had, as I think you both referenced, some contentious meetings of late. So what will you do to help ensure greater unity or at least less division on the council if you are elected? Mr. Brownfield, you're first.
Thank you, and that's a great question. When I got on council in 2013, every vote seemed like it was unanimous. I can remember the first time I cast a vote against everyone else, and there was not this many people in the audience, about 6 people, and they turned and looked, and their jaws dropped because somebody said no. That's what I was elected for. I wasn't elected to always agree with everything. People sitting on council need to realize we're not going to agree on everything all the time, and I appreciate that fact. But we also have to realize we have to do what's best for the town. We may not like each other. We may not be friends. I hope we all do. But if we don't, it's not a big deal. We're elected to make decisions what's best for the city. I just would remind the other council folks that we are working for the same thing to better this community. If it doesn't go through, that's fine. When I walk out that door of every council meeting, and you can check with any of the alder folks, I don't hold any grudges. They're elected just like I am, and I appreciate the fact that they have their opinions and they're supporting what they think is correct. So I would just promote that we just need to continue to communicate and do what we need to do.
Ms. Stevens?
Could you repeat just the very last part of that question?
What would you do to help ensure greater unity or at least less division on the council if elected?
All right, so I think where an improvement could be is the way an item would get on the agenda. I believe there's an issue with, for example, myself. If I think an item should be on the agenda, there's 2 ways to go about doing it. I can get 2 other alderpersons to write an email asking for the item to be on the agenda, or I can bring up a topic during alderperson's comments for make a motion, get a second, and a vote. I believe that having some sort of a system, and we set our own rules of procedure for council meetings, having a system where all the persons can have a voice, have a say in what they would also like to see on the agenda will do a great deal to alleviate the contentiousness that has been going on.
Okay, we're going to take a little break. We've had a request from the standers in the back of the room that if everybody who's seated could scoot their chair just a little bit forward, that would make a little more space in the back of the room. Sorry about this. Okay, then I need to get you all to sit back down and quiet down. And I know that's hard. It's like stopping a cocktail party. Except there's no alcohol. So anyway, okay, the next question is an economic development question. And again, this has come in a couple of different ways. With the recent opening of the Freedom Parkway corridor, it brings new business development opportunities. Plus the state-funded road work on Business 24, Washington Street, is the main corridor. So what are your plans to help attract and retain additional businesses with the investment that the city and the state has made at this point?
All right, well, that's one of my closing points, so I can cross that off to save you time. We definitely need to attract new businesses, especially along the main corridor, the Business 24 corridor. And plain and simple, we need to revive our Economic Development Commission. We need other persons from the community input into economic development. One person on staff can't do it alone. So basically, that's where I would start.
Okay, Mr. Brownfield?
As I mentioned in my opening, we need to work to get better economic development into this community. With having Freedom Parkway and with having the new Knopfsinger realignment, these are opportunities that we just can't miss. If you talk to Chris Setti from the Greater Peoria Economic Development Council, we've got a great blank slate. So we need to work with them. We need to work with our Economic Development Committee, which unfortunately probably hasn't met enough. Have they met at all? That's one of the things.
2021.
Yeah, 2021 they met. So we need to make sure we have those folks meeting, and they're good business leaders and people of the community. So we need to find a way to get those businesses to come to Washington. It helps with sales tax, which in turn helps us fund roads, fund infrastructure. So it's just selling Washington, and we should be able to do that. It's a great community, as we all know.
Okay, Mr. Brownfield, you answer the next question first, and this is a slight veer off of the path we've been on. So, should Washington allow backyard chickens in certain areas? It's a controversial issue in many communities. Backyard chickens.
So about every couple of years, we start getting the chickens, the bees, the motorcycles, the golf carts, all the good stuff. So I will be honest with you, we're talking chickens this time. So the first time that chickens came, we made it a special use. And I believe we had 4 different areas, or 4 different homeowners that had chickens within their homes. We got more phone calls, more things that people think we're having phone calls now on some of the issues. It was just insane how frustrated folks were that we allowed it. So we put rules down. You know, eggs are extremely expensive now. We were on a trip somewhere and it was $12 for a dozen eggs. So I totally get that. I think in the right settings, country estates development, I think that would be okay because those have to be at least over an acre. I think the council is just going to have to look at all the different reasons to or not. That's going to be a decision that's going to be made by the council. You know, the mayor doesn't vote. So we're just going to have to be educated and we'll get the feel of the council. You know, if it comes down to me, we'll just have to see what's being said at that point. So thank you.
Backyard chickens, Ms. Stevens.
Oh, yes, this is a topic near and dear to my heart. First of all, I have to thank Mike for bringing the topic originally to the council because there was a family that had chickens and wasn't sure of the process. So, of course, they were illegal chickens. And so Mike brought him up. Mike brought up the topic. We had quite a few discussions, and it was decided with the special use to allow chickens. Then for some reason, I believe a couple council members decided they didn't like chickens. So that was brought back up and the chicken ordinance was rescinded. So the 4, 5, 6, whatever that were already approved could remain, but the rest, nobody could come forward anymore. My personal opinion is one of the issues, and number one, I didn't know we had so many phone calls. That's one of the problems that we have. Not everybody, is informed about all the complaints that come into City Hall. But anyway, so one of the issues is the neighbors. There was not the option to put in the ordinance for the neighbors to agree to chickens. I believe to be successful, you have to check with your adjoining neighbors. Otherwise, it's a failure. But I was the only person, I think, that voted not to rescind the ordinance. I wanted to look at it again to tweak it.
Thank you. Okay, I'm combining a couple of questions here. and this is a question about the restaurant and brew pub that should be opening soon in downtown Washington. So for the past several years, far behind the original schedule, the developers have been working to open a restaurant and a brew pub downtown on the square with city support. So what are lessons you've learned from this process that you would like to see applied to the next business development project? And do you have any frustration that the developers of this restaurant haven't yet resolved their legal and monetary issues with their neighbors?
All right. What lessons have I learned? I have learned that something shouldn't be rushed through as it was rushed through. The first time I heard about this square redevelopment was, I'd say, October of 2021, and the vote for it was December 20th, 2021. That's way too quick for some large redevelopment. The other situation which became problematic is there were no standards set for when work is done, then money would be paid out. The way the chart is set out is when the developer asks for a certain amount of money, which is laid out, we give it to them. It's not, it should have been just like it is for the redevelopment of the KC Hall. The work is done first, then the reimbursement comes later. That's a big lesson. The frustration is, well, for me, this was going to be a niche. Like beer was going to be brewed on site. I mean, that is special. We'll bring people in. But then when we had the first redevelopment or the first amendment, all of a sudden, beer wasn't going to be brewed there, but that wasn't made clear. So I voted for both of them because I felt this would be an asset to the square. I'm looking forward to the restaurant to be on the square.
Thank you. Mr. Brownfield.
It said stop.
He follows directions well. So in response real quick about the chickens, I was personally receiving the phone calls, not City Hall. I don't know how many City Hall had. So, but that being said, what have we learned about the development agreement? I think, you know, it was said and it was hit on the head. The second time we had the development, we wrote the agreement where they would be paid when work was done. You know, not many people have taken down a 100-plus-year-old building where there's no maps of the infrastructure, there's no knowing where things are. So there were delays there. It seemed like every other day we were getting calls that the water main was hit again. Public Works is out there, everybody's out there trying to correct that. So that's frustrating. And I understand the difficulty of doing some building like that. You know, it's going to be a fabulous project. We just need to make sure that any other project we have up on the square or anywhere else, we have our I's dotted and our T's crossed. It's been a learning experience for staff. I think it's been a very good learning experience for the council. It's going to be a great project when it's done. If you talk to the folks on the square, they are so happy that this is coming. And yes, it's taken forever, it seems like, but it is going to be an asset to the community. Am I frustrated that they haven't settled up with the neighbor yet or had a conclusion with everything? It is frustrating. We want this thing to be done and over and open. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Brownfield, you answer the next question first. What is the number one environmental issue facing the city of Washington in the next 5 years?
Good one. Well, I think one of the biggest environmental issues we have moving forward, you know, we don't, thank goodness, don't have factories on this side, so we don't have to worry about those kind of things. But I think we see a lot of trees that need to be planted. We have, you know, the solar, that concerns me a little bit. What's going to happen, you know, it's within the next 5 years, but in the next 10 years, 15 years, what are we going to do with all of these batteries and solar panels that are being installed right now? That's another avenue that I'm looking at. I'm just trying to figure out how we're going to move forward with that and what's going to be done with all this. I think green energy is a wonderful thing, but I don't think we have enough answers yet to know what we're going to do with all this in the future.
Ms. Stevens.
Wow, I didn't expect this question. So environmental questions, I think of like, you know, people who have factories and things like that. But then the first thing I thought of after that was like noise pollution. Is that an environmental issue? Could be. And also the creeks. We have a lot of creeks, well, Farmdale, running through our town. Through the years, there have been concerns about the health of the creeks. I believe that would be the environmental issue that would be the one coming up, in my opinion.
Okay, Ms. Stevens, you get the next question first. The council spent several months discussing a proposed amphitheater funded by private foundation monies, but would require city spending on infrastructure. What are your views on the project? And do you believe there is sufficient regional demand for such a performance facility? And should the project not go, what happens with the property?
I am for the amphitheater, maybe not the way this amphitheater has been presented, but I think, again, just like anything that brings people to Washington to improve our revenue system is good. The way this amphitheater proposal was presented, it was presented in, this is it, no room for tweaking it. There've been a lot of suggestions that maybe the size isn't adequate. Again, we have so many unanswered questions, and I do hope that we have the town hall meeting soon, because even though there was the open house, people heard different answers. We need to have a meeting where everybody hears the same answer. And as far as the property, well, the city owns the property, and I mean, it'll just stay as it is until something else comes forward.
Mr. Brownfield?
I've been pretty upfront about my feeling on the amphitheater. You know, when this first kicked off, it was Brownfield is for this 100%. It's what, if you read social media or you hear people talk around town. Mike Brownfield has not made up his mind yet on this project whatsoever. There's a lot of questions that need to be answered. You know, we as a council and as a city, we're not doing our due diligence if someone offers a great opportunity and wants to fund this and we don't discuss it. It can't just be a no right away because somebody doesn't like it or doesn't feel well. You know, I've talked to some of the neighbors that live out in that area, and they want to stay a cornfield. They don't want anything. You know, we've heard baseball diamonds. We've heard, you know, I've heard somebody say, let's put a warehouse out there. Yeah, that's what we want is trucks 24/7 pulling in and out of there instead of, you know, a potential to have a amphitheater that has something going on for 4 or 5 hours a night, you know, 30 times a year. So there's too many questions, and I agree. The town hall has to be held. I've been adamant in meetings. I'm not prepared to make a vote one way or another. So until we get all the answers, we just have to continue to do our job and see if this great endowment can work for the city.
Okay, Mr. Brownfield, you get the next question first. How much of the city's revenue comes from the federal government, and what does it fund, and what happens if it's stopped?
Ready for that one?
We don't
No,
have
I don't. I mean, I'll be completely honest. How much of the federal government? I cannot say it. I don't have a clue.
Okay.
Can I go first still?
All right. So what infrastructure projects do you think need prioritization, and which ones would you support?
So I think we've done a really nice job identifying over the next 20 years what needs to be done in the city. The east end of town has infrastructure that's well over 100 years old. We've already started some of those projects. So, you know, it costs almost $1 million or a little more per mile to redo the infrastructure on these areas. So we get the east end of town done, and then we move to Devonshire. There's spots on the west end of town that needs to be taken care of in Sunnyland, and I know they're having issues at Westlake right now. We just need to figure out what is priority. You know, it's easy to say that we're getting new trucks and new cars and you know, fire trucks and all the good things we're helping fund, but we have to make sure that everything flows downhill like it's supposed to. We have clean water. So I think everyone on the council is is for improving infrastructure. It's just going to take time, and it's going to be, it will be costly. It just gets more expensive every year.
All right. So infrastructure prioritization. So the sewer trunk line, that has been another very contentious topic, but the solution is on the horizon because now there's been a compromise reached. So hopefully that will be taken care of soon. Also, Business 24 reconstruction, that's really a prioritization to make sure that we know what that main corridor is going to look like after reconstruction. We have to move the water line from under Business 24. I don't think we've talked about that yet, but that's another main project that we have, and how is that going to be funded? Sidewalks. There are many areas of town that don't have sidewalks. That's a prioritization for me.
Okay, Ms. Stevens, you get the next question first. What skills and characteristics do you bring to the table as mayor that you believe your opponent does not possess?
Let me have it, let's go.
All right. I like Mike. The thing that I like about our relationship is because we don't have to agree on things, but we can still talk. You know, we're friendly, and I appreciate that. I believe that I bring to the table, is this skills?
Skills and characteristics.
Okay. Characteristics is to keep people informed. One of the characteristics that I have is I have been keeping people informed since I've been elected. Mike is our city rep for 5 Points. We have yet to have a report. So I believe communication is the main one. I can't say he's not community minded. He is. Like all these descriptions, we each, I think, have the same similarities. We love Washington, but it's, I guess, how we go about doing it. I go about doing it involving a lot of people, and that's what I think I possess.
Mr. Brownfield, your turn.
So first, there are reports that are brought in by the WAC board president to the city council. They come a couple times a year, update, and let everyone know what is happening at 5 Points. Things I possess, at my current job, I'm the director of facility services at a retirement community to a little town up north that everybody doesn't like. You know, in my day-to-day, I'm running different projects, different employees, different departments. So I've already had the experience of working with folks who know how to do their jobs, that you have to trust to make sure that they're going to do their job the way that the citizens would want to be done. I'm not one of those people that's going to be every day in City Hall telling them what they're doing and what they're not doing. I truly feel that I have the respect of the employees. You know, communication is key. That's one of my goals, is to make sure there's more communication out from the city. We can't trust Facebook pages that aren't from the city. Some folks will use their own opinions or point out things that they don't agree with. That's not doing anything to promote the city or to form good bonds. So we just need to continue to work hard and to move this place forward.
Okay, and Mr. Brownfield, you get the next question first. After voting to build a new police evidence holding building for $2 million, discussions about the project's cost have persisted, including at council meetings. Do you support this project moving forward?
I absolutely support it. You know, the evidence building we had caught fire. That was after the fact, but we weren't in compliance. Evidence has to be kept a certain way, has to be documented a certain way. Police Chief McCoy and Deputy Chief Stevens did a great job. Finding ways to make this fit a little bit better in our budget, to make it an opportunity where, you know, if evidence comes into call in a courtroom that's not been stored right, it gets thrown out. That could release someone who's done something horrible. So do I support this 100%? Yes. It's a good move for the city. It should have been done years ago. And I'm proud to say I did vote for this.
Stevens?
All right. Do I support the evidence building? So I support the police department. As far as this evidence building, it had been talked about probably in the committee a long time before it came to the council. I had hoped that there had been a space study done prior to the decision of where this evidence building was going to be placed, because it's a standalone evidence building. We just heard the other day about the other council meeting that space is short at the police station. The technical aspects of policing have changed. So, and I've also learned that the standalone evidence building, which is going to be behind the fire station, the west wall has been planned to be built in such a way where a police station could be expanded. I wish that we had done a space study ahead of time. I think a lot of the angst that people have had with the costs of this evidence building could have been avoided had the planning process been different and had included the council earlier.
Okay, Ms. Stevens, you get the next question first. At a council meeting on February 10th, a large group of audience members in attendance acted out of order or were called out of order and started making verbal comments directed at a guest speaker. This has caused a discussion at the February 17th meeting to adopt a civility pledge. The question is, do you feel the audience was out of order in their behavior, and do you support a civility pledge?
Number one, I definitely do support a civility pledge. I support a civility pledge not just for the council members. I support a civility pledge for appointed persons on boards and commissions, because the IML, when they created this, that was also part of it. And plus, I would like to sign that civility pledge that we approved the other night. Hopefully, you will elect me as your mayor. When we have meetings, especially when we know that there are going to be contentious topics, I believe it is up to the presiding officer to set the tone in the very beginning. The first time somebody perhaps creates a disturbance in the audience, you would stop and you would point that out. You don't let things go on. The same goes for the council people. Like, the council people can say point of order if the presiding officer does not conduct the meeting in a manner that is conducive to proper decorum.
Mr. Brownfield?
So at that meeting, it was a little frustrating to me, and it was in the paper that I called that meeting a circus. Well, it wasn't towards the folks that were in the audience. My explanation for why I said that was we had speakers get up and they were both bashing each other back and forth. That doesn't do any good at all. I believe a couple of council folks made the point of saying that later on. I was also disappointed in our council itself, because a council person asked a question and staff was responding and they overspoke them. They overspoke that person. You know, that happens quite often. It's emotional for us also up there. So I do support the civility act that we're going to, sign. But in the same sense, the chatter in the background that should have been taken care of, and I am all for 100% someone having their First Amendment rights to speak at the podium. But the folks that are in the audience that won't march up to there, I have very little tolerance for that. It should have been taken care of, and it went on just a little bit too long. So I just hope that when folks do come to our meetings, you respect that it's hard sitting on this side of the table. And we have folks all the time that want to give their opinions to us, which is great, but do it the proper way. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Brownfield, you get this question first. How do you plan to engage citizens and solicit feedback on key issues that are coming before the council?
Thank you. And I think I spoke of this a little bit in my opening. I would love to hold either monthly events, to invite elected officials, to invite staff, and advertise this, get it out that we will be holding an open. It won't be an official meeting. We wouldn't be able to have a quorum there, but we could have folks there and listen to concerns, listen to some great ideas. How are we going to make Washington a better spot? I'd also want to engage the other taxing bodies. Washington's tax rate, everybody complains about the city of Washington being so high. The city's fortune is only 6%. So how do we get the schools, the library, the park district? How do we get everybody at the table to discuss how we can help maybe offset some of that? We just need to communicate better. I think we used to do that. We used to have coffees with the police chief, the mayor, things like that. We just haven't done that in years. So I think COVID probably did a lot to that, to take that away, but we need to reintroduce that. We need to let the folks know they have a voice.
Mike, I think you read my notes.
Roger sent it to me.
All right. What I would like to see is, I would like to see the residents have the opportunity to meet monthly with elected officials, rotating the officials' attendance depending upon their schedules. Since October, I have been hosting Q&As here in the library study rooms over there. And the number one topic people have been asking about, the amphitheater proposal. Also, we need to work with other taxing bodies. We need to find ways to lower our overall property taxes, or we will be taxing people out of Washington. I would definitely like to initiate a citizen advisory committee. And I would like to advertise on our Facebook page and our city's website the opportunities our community members can participate in local government.
Okay, next question goes to you, Ms. Stevens. Will you make the protection of Farm Creek a priority and also the preservation of the woods and essential stream side corridors?
Yes.
Okay. That was brief and to the point.
So that's funny. So yes, but, I think staff and the engineering firms has done a really good job going through this and visiting with the property owners, how we can save some vegetation and natural trees and everything. I believe there's going to be opportunities where we can bore under some of these. We have a company coming in to just investigate that, to take out as little of these natural trees that needs to be removed. So it is something that we need to protect. It has been a long time since we've been working on this. I mean, when I got on council in 2013, we were doing phase 1 of this, and now we are 12 years later, and we're just trying to get phase 2 going. So I think there's going to be a good, a nice plan coming out of this that I hope it'll come to fruition.
Okay, Mr. Brownfield, you get the next question first. Both of you have served several years on the council as an alderperson. What's something you've learned about the city of Washington since being elected that surprised you?
What surprised me? Nothing surprises me anymore. I can tell you that. I love the fact that Washington is so emotionally engaged in some of these hot topics. It means you're paying attention. It means that we're hopefully we're doing our job by listening. I mean, from bees to chickens to the trunk line to the amphitheater. In my 12 years as a council member, I've got to see a lot of things. I've got to participate in a lot of things. It amazes me sometimes the things that people get upset about that seem like no-brainers. But it's exciting to me that people want to be engaged. I wish more people would want to try and step up to the table and run for some of these seats. It's hard to sit over on this way. And you look at this next election, we have some seats that weren't even ran for, and we have some that aren't contested. So it's not, you have to love the community and you have to have thick skin. I just appreciate the fact that there is engagement. There just needs to be more of it.
Ms. Stevens, what has surprised you?
But when you asked what has surprised me, I thought of the actual city, the way the city operates. What I have learned is that there is a divide between council members and staff. I see us all being on the same team. We should be on the same team. City Hall often refers to themselves as family. They're very close at City Hall. That's a wonderful environment to work in. But somebody like me who has come in, and it's not a surprise that people weren't thrilled that I was elected because it kind of broke up the status quo. So breaking into an organization that is used to dealing with the people that they already know is very difficult. But I think we should all work together. And I have been having a lot of conversations lately with department heads, and I feel very encouraged that things are looking up And that is the key. We all need to work together.
Okay, next question, Ms. Stevens. And I'm not sure the definition of local here, but should local contractors be used when city is using TIF funds for a project? I'm sorry, did you hear me back there? I'm sorry. Should local contractors, I don't know what the definition of the asker is of local, and I'm not asking for that person to define it, but should local contractors be used when the city is spending TIF funds?
I believe this question has to do with the square redevelopment, because there are many companies out of like Northern Illinois that are being used. And I believe there are regulations somewhere along the line too about that, but I'm not 100% sure. But definitely, my preference is to have local, meaning, Washington, Peoria, Morton, as opposed to north of 80 being used for contractors.
Mr. Brownfield?
I am a huge proponent of local and, semi-local businesses. But if we look at the square, we don't own that property. We can't tell them who they're using. They have to pay prevailing wage to these folks coming down. They've built in other areas. They're comfortable with those folks. I understand why they want to. What I love to see, local businesses up there, folks that live in town that own businesses in other parts of the Peoria area out there, absolutely 100%. But it's not our choice. They're held to the same standards that the area is. The building codes are all held to the same thing. It would just be nice if we would have our unions there and our local folks. So there's nothing we can really do about it. We can make suggestions, but that's not something we can put into our ordinances or codes.
Okay. Next question, Mr. Brownfield. Can you share a challenge that you have faced in your current role on the council where you have worked with department heads, other officials, and or state officials to find a positive solution to the problem?
Absolutely. I was sworn in May of 2013. And in November of 2013, we had a nice little windstorm come out and take not half, but 1,000 homes out, including my own. Not only was I trying to rebuild my life with my family and our friends, but we were trying to figure out the right ways to help Washington rebuild. I was fortunate enough to work with some federal, state, and local officials. I've formed great relationships with those folks since then. I still have those. 2 years later, you look at Washington, and it was better. 3 years later, better. I just saw one of the last lots having a house built on it right now. So it was very challenging at the time. I could have walked away from city council at that point, but I was elected, and I felt, and it was actually a pretty good thing for me to work on something else besides my own rebuild. So we've worked on that, and working with staff to work on this sewer trunk line that we at Farm Creek we've been working on. It's been frustrating, but I think we've got a great solution now if it all comes together. So was that my timer?
No, that was his phone.
Sorry about that. So thank you.
Ms. Stevens, same question.
Well, I would like to work with other people, but it's been made clear that if I work with other entities, I am stepping out of my lane. I have no influence. I have nothing to say. That's what I've been told, other than when we're sitting at the table. There were concerns brought up early on in my when I was first elected. And so I inquired in other communities how they dealt with these concerns. For example, Peoria has a policy, an objective policy that will be good to implement here in Washington when residents come with concerns. Well, I was told that I embarrassed the city staff by speaking to other people about an issue. And the person who was recommended to me was a friend of mine who does work for Peoria. So to answer that question, sure, that would be great to do in the future for other council people, but I haven't experienced that personally.
Okay, this will be our last question before we go to closing statements. Do you have any ideas on how to get younger people involved in local government and on elected or appointed boards? If so, what are your ideas?
That is a wonderful question. We have Student Government Day every year, and that is a wonderful, wonderful program. I think we need to publicize it more. I think we need to advertise it more. And those people who are participants in the Student Government Day should be encouraged to continue on doing activities with the city. So one of the initiatives that I would like to see, as I stated earlier, was a citizen advisory committee. And in the citizen advisory committee, you would include young people in that committee. So that is very important to me.
Mr. Brownfield, same question. How would you get young people involved in local government?
Great question. Just yesterday, I believe, our city clerk, Val Broad, and a couple other folks were at the high school getting students to register to vote. That's a great way to start things. The city government day with the kids is a great way also. I get that it's hard for the 20, 30, 35-year-old folks that want to get involved in city government, or any government for that matter. They're raising their families. They're chasing kids, being soccer mom and dads, and baseball and travel ball and dance and all the fun stuff. It's hard. You have to find that right person that can juggle those things and to get them to try and get into a little bit. Even putting them on certain boards, put them on a zoning board that meets once a month, or an economic board, or the historical board, just to get their feet wet would just be a great way, in my opinion. It's getting harder and harder to even put folks that have been around town on these boards because they think they've done their time. So we just need to promote. It's not a bad thing. And we need to make sure that they realize, when you're being, I don't want to say attacked, but when you have negative things thrown at you, it's just someone expressing their opinions. So, and I appreciate everything we get. So thank you.
Okay, closing statements. You have 2 minutes for your closing statements, and Mr. Brownfield, you're first.
Thank you very much. First, again, thanks to the sponsored event today. Thank you for all that came in on the nicest Saturday we've had in a long time to come in and listen to us babble back and forth a little bit. But this is a great community. We have the best of the best. We have some of the best police departments. I would put our police department, our fire department, public works, city employees up against anyone else. It's good to know that when we have an emergency or we have a snow event, we know that the plows are going to be out. It's an inch of snow and they're out pushing snow and salting, 12, 15 hours to make it safe for our community. Our schools are top. We've got great school board members that are helping the administration continue to run things and to get the kids the education they need. This facility here, it's second to none. When people come into town and they say, "Oh, is that your high school?" No, that's our community center. They're used to an old school or an old building off to the side of the community center. They can't believe we have this. The South End with the arts, with the theater. People would love to have this. Again, I keep saying people want to be Washington. We are so fortunate to live in this community, and I look forward to speaking to anyone who'd like to talk to me. You have to make your decision who the next mayor is going to be. I am going to be your next mayor with your support. I want your vote. I hope I have earned some of your votes today. If you would like to talk to me at any time, please reach out. Thank you all very much.
Ms. Stevens, closing comments for 2 minutes.
Yes, thank you.
Please hold your applause. We're not done yet.
During my opening remarks, I stated that words are meaningless if they aren't followed with actions. As your future mayor, I would like to initiate the following actions. As I stated earlier, we need a policy to address resident concerns that result in some sort of resolution. We can't keep putting people off. We can't keep hoping they won't be coming back to ask the same questions. Other communities, as I mentioned, have policies. We need a policy that adapts to our needs. Under my leadership, there'll be a resolution, 2 concerns brought forth. It is not realistic to think that we're going to please everybody all the time, but there will be a resolution. I haven't forgotten about residential speeding concerns. I haven't forgotten about the safe sidewalks that are lacking. I haven't forgotten about those pesky solar salespeople. And yes, the fireworks 2 weeks before the 4th of July. So we need to keep our community informed. We should use e-notify, code red. I propose that we might even revive the city newsletter. And what about this sign outside the Washington Fire Department? Wouldn't it be great if there was an electronic sign to replace that? And finally, I would like alderpersons to be able to advocate for their ward. Alderpersons are elected by their ward, but there is nothing in place for them to share their ward's needs. And I close with simply saying, actions speak louder than words. I have demonstrated that my words translate into actions. I respectfully ask for your vote to be your next mayor, and together we can begin a new chapter with the community-focused leadership that I would like to see. Thank you.
Okay, now let's thank both of the candidates. I would remind you, if there are any primaries, primary day, election day is next Tuesday, but these folks are not on the primary ballot. They're on the general election ballot on April 1st. Thank you to the library for continuing to bring in chairs. I'm sorry some of you had to stand the whole time. We're going to take a little break and get ready for the alderpersons.